Okay, my friends, back again. This time around, we're on Blue Review episode number 9. And we're going to plunge right in here in just a couple of minutes with 4 reviews. 2 items I'm going to be watching today and 2 tomorrow, unless I get ahead of myself. I wanted to point out, if it's not already obvious, that I managed to cram in all 4 of the films for 2 days yesterday. So I got to finish up with Beyond the Darkness and Kill Baby Kill and The Howling. So I already started this process after midnight, so now here we are, and I am on Sunday, and I'm starting with the 2 days. Sunday, Monday, the 25th and 26th. Going to go back to our regular, 2 days per episode thing. So it gives me time to do the episodes and watch all the movies, or rewatch in these cases, because I've seen them all before at least once or twice. So anyway, just want to give a few shout outs to some people who have been very supportive of the columns, if you want to call them columns, that I've been having, the video columns, and my posts about them on my main Facebook page, and also shared in a film group that I own on Facebook. So I want to give a very brief shout out to just a few people. Sean Lee Levin, as always, Tim Tolbert, Tim McLean, Susan Mitchell, Giannis Glensis. I may be saying your name wrong, and he made an especially kind comment, and I hope the lighting on this one is better than the ones that you mentioned before. And, that's constructive criticism, so I'm going to probably use this setting far more than the little green room. In any case, I'm probably forgetting, like, who knows how many people, but I'll just mention them next time. So let's see. Oh, Ken Story. Yes, I can't forget him. He's always supportive, ever ready to lend a hand here to a brother in need. So let's get rolling here. So this is going to be kind of like a bummer of an episode. You're going to have to deal with 4 films that are all very difficult, shall we say. Extreme, depressing, downbeat, dark, brutal, intense, traumatic. I think we're going to have it covered here as far as the baser emotions. After that, this series will probably gain a good bit of levity with our last few entries, rather. So what are we going to talk about? Well, today's theme is, I just called it, intensity. And basically starting with 2 films that are very intense, that they're kind of benchmarks for people in different genres of horror. I mean, people who are into different genres of horror, especially extreme horror, and just stuff that kind of is over the top and makes you go, the proverbial, what the fuck kind of thing. So first one is Possession, by, I never will say his name right, Anders Zulawski. I can say that part right. Zulawski made this movie, I think it came out in 1980, 81, and stars Sam Neill and Isabelle Adjani as a couple who are, basically their marriage is disintegrating. Sam wants to hold on to it. His character's named Mark, by the way, and he wants to hold on to it for himself because he dearly loves his wife, but also for their son Bob, who's pretty young, maybe under 10 years old. There is no real explanation given for why Anna, the wife, played by Isabel, just kind of suddenly decides one day, I don't want to be with you anymore. Now, this kind of thing happens in real life too. It's happened to me. I've been on the receiving end of it. So have a lot of my male and female friends. Jean-Luc Godard touched on this phenomenon in a handful of his movies. Trying to figure out what happened, the whys, and of course, many times there are no whys, and you simply have to dig into the grieving process. So our boy Mark he's not willing to let go because he feels like their marriage is a strong commitment and their son is an important factor. So he's constantly imploring Anna, what's going on? Is there somebody else? Why have your feelings changed? Every question you can imagine him asking someone who's being told, well, okay, goodbye, at the drop of a hat. He's desperately clutching. He goes through a period of extreme depression, and then he starts to snap out of it for the sake of Bob, his son. And then he starts pursuing Anna all over Berlin, where they live, in and out of their apartment, to wherever she goes, and also on the streets, and to this building where she goes and seemingly has rendezvous with another man who is another lover. So that part is partially correct. She is having some liaisons with another man called Heinz, I think is his name. I might be forgetting his name correctly. But basically, he's played by a really good German actor, again, whose name has gone right through my brain here. I don't know if I can have time to cheat or not. I'm going to go ahead and say that this guy, the actor is named Heinz Bennett. He's been in a couple other things I've seen. He's really intense. I can't remember the name of his character though, but that guy, he's intense. He's all into like transcendental meditation and martial arts and Zen, and he seems to be kind of borderline psychic telepathic. He seems to have great empathy for Mark when Mark finds him. Mark, of course, is taunting him and deriding him for screwing his wife, and Mr. Heinz Bennett's character is seemingly taking it kind of as a joke, and then very seriously, and then being so sympathetic or empathetic toward Mark, it almost seems as though he's hitting on him a couple of times. And Mark, of course, is just delighted at seeing this guy squirm, and he feels like he's just playing a mind fuck game on him because, hey, he got with my wife. This is what he deserves. This guy is some pretentious German philosopher dude, and I'm just going to mess with him. But it's more complicated than all this. There is another party involved, and this party is someone or something that you have never ever seen before. It is really a matter of, can you believe this is really happening? It's like a creature, kind of. Carlo Rambaldi, who designed E.T. and who did a lot of work on Alien with Giger, and a number of other films in the 70s and 80s, including the infamous Lizard in a Woman's Skin by Lucio Fulci, where he, has a room full of dogs that are being dissected for some experiment, but they're being kept alive and they're breathing and panting. And it looks so realistic that they took Fulci to court. Rambaldi had to bring the devices and show him how he pumped the blood and the panting dogs, and that no, we did not cut open a torture and keep alive these dogs. It's an insane scene in a crazy movie. It's the most insane scene in the movie. So Rambaldi, he knows his creatures and how to make them look real and surreal, how to make the surreal appear real. Let's put it that way, which is Giger does in his visual art. So this being that Anna has sequestered away in this building of hers across town, where she's been having some relations with our German philosopher man. That's where this being stays, and it looks a little bit different each time that we behold it. The first time you get a really good shot of it, it's kind of mind-boggling. It's viscous and it's sort of humanoid, like the requisite amount of mammal limbs, symmetry going on here, but it's head, if you want to call it that. It's this big arcing kind of phallic-like thing with tiny little eyes far apart and a little weird little mouth thing that just never really says anything. Some tentacles, and it looks like it's kind of bleeding and breathing and sweating all at the same time. Oh man, I've never seen anything like it before or since. So if you want to see a crazy creature, watch this movie. You'll have to deal with all of the, horrible breakup scenes and fights and anguish along the way. But, it's going to be worth it because those scenes keep building in intensity towards what you're going to learn about what this creature is, what Anna is really up to. Even by the end of the movie, you may not be 100% sure. You may not even be 10% sure you knew what the fuck just happened in this movie. But it would have been a worthwhile journey. And if you connect with this movie, I guarantee you it will have great rewatch value. Just has some incredible, memorable dialogue and scenes and shots. Sam Neill, this was one of his early, almost kind of breakthrough movies, and he is incredible. Isabelle Adjani won Best Actress at Cannes for this role. And I think probably what won her was a particular clip about almost halfway through the film, in which she is on the metro, the subway, in Berlin, and goes into this cataleptic fit and basically screams and practically levitates. That's where you get the idea of the title Possession and why a lot of people thought that it was a horror. Well, it is a horror movie, definitely, but they thought it was a more conventional horror movie and she was demonically possessed. But her fit and her epileptic kind of movement is indescribable, and her screams are so intense. And someone asked her, what direction did Zalowski give you when you did this? And one of the things she said was, imagine you were fucking the air. And she's really just convulsing, and finally a good bit of blood puddles up under her dress, as she's kneeling in the subway thing, and she's also drooling and vomiting. It's really gross, but it's really powerful. It's really well done, and it looks like it was done in they probably did several takes, but this looks like most of it was done in one take, the final thing they arrived at, and it's absolutely just incredible. That's kind of the big set piece of the film. Near the end of the film, a little action comes in as Mark tries to thwart his German rival, but also tries to find out what the hell's going on. There's a detective that he's hired who runs afoul of Anna and the creature to very bad effect. And then there's a doppelganger of Anna that comes to work at Bob's school, and Mark at first thinks it's a practical joke. It's Anna, but it is the same actress, Isabelle Adjani. It's not Anna though. So here you have the beginning of the idea of the mirroring and the doppelganger, which of course, in more recent times, David Lynch has turned into practically a cottage industry in his films. But that doppelganger, that mirror self, will come up regarding Mark toward the end of the film, and it will explain more or less a lot about this creature and what it's doing, why it seems to be maturing each time we see it, and subtly changing and altering. And mind you, this creature has been, making love with Anna every night for months, apparently. And, at first when she says these things, you think, she's just messing with her husband, but no, it's true. And we actually get to see it at one point. So this movie's beyond the pale, but it works on a lot of different levels. It's in my top 10 favorite films. The breakup stuff is resonant and powerful for me. The fantasy, supernatural, that kind of element is incredible. The psychology, the artistry that goes into crafting this kind of film where the characters are speaking in this kind of mannered way with each other, much like some of Lynch's later stuff. Um, Almost sounds a little too arch at times, but then you think these people are in an extreme situation. They may not deliver these exact lines the way they would in real life if their marriage was disintegrating, but they would probably say almost these exact lines. And so there is a undercurrent of tragedy and truth to this, despite the fantasy trappings and the extreme nature of the direction and performances. Okay, so let me just show you real quick the Blu-ray and we'll move on to something else. So I got this from Mondo Vision a year or two ago. Look at this beautiful thing. It's this big, beautiful book. And basically it has a little wraparound ribbon that you can, slide up and down. But if you, turn it on its side here, it also has a little bookmark thing where you can easily slip this out of it. Look at Isabel in green. And a thing of beauty, a fold out. What's on the other side? The two of them clinging to each other, even as they're losing each other. You've got a nice little fold out here. You've got a chapter thing and credits. If you can see all this, hopefully. You have a booklet with, it looks like some essays and filmography, a review by Tom Huddleston, and an essay by David Bird, as well as the Blu-ray credits. So this is cool, and this slips right into this little aperture here inside of it. And then you fold out again. The Blu-ray is in my upstairs Blu-ray player. And there's Anna once again. So this is a treat. It looks beautiful. This has been on its way out of print for a while, and it may be by now. I'm not sure. I need to look on eBay, where of course I have a store, and find out how much this is going for now. I'll be honest, I bought it for $40 plus sales tax on Amazon about, like I said, a year or two ago. At that stage, the price was slowly rising on the secondary market, and it was on its way of being officially out of print by Mondo Vision. I don't know what the current status is, so this could be semi-affordable still, at $40-ish, or it could be outlandish. But if you have a chance to get it and you're a fan of this movie, well, if you're a fan of this movie, this is essential. If you have a Blu-ray player and like this movie, this is what you have to own as soon as humanly possible, preferably. Anyway, so this box set's called Sex, Murder, Art. It's also another deluxe little package, and it's got a film in it. The second intense film we're going to talk about today. It's the back of the cover. Basically it's George Bucharest's first 4 features. And, I don't know what you know about Bucharest. A lot of you who are probably watching this do know a lot about him and are fans. It also has soundtracks to all 4 of the films. And creepy stuff, huh? So I decided to just play it safe and go with the first film that he ever did, the first feature that he ever finished, and the one probably quite a lot of us, if not most of us, their first film they saw by him, and that is NEKROMANTIK. So here's the lovely cover with the covers of the various films. Here is NEKROMANTIK, Der Todsking, NEKROMANTIK 2, and Schramm. Schramm is okay. It's worth seeing. NEKROMANTIK 2 has to be seen to be believed. It's jaw-dropping. Der Todsking is probably his most, artistic film, and NEKROMANTIK is kind of the one that started it all, really. So let's not much to really dive into. An incredibly thick booklet with everything you ever wanted to know about this cat named George Bucharest. And the little spindle thing is like starting to try to come loose on me. I'm not thrilled with that. Anyway, so yes, there is where disc 1 would be, which is NEKROMANTIK, and that is currently in my Blu-ray player right across from me. And a particularly grisly scene is actually unfolding, even as we speak. An act of necrophilia. You wouldn't guess that's the theme from the title, would you? Der Todsking, NEKROMANTIK 2, Schramm. And there's all kinds of extras. His early films, like Hot Love and various short films. They're all short films. And this is the package. I'm hoping I can get it clamped. Yes, there we go. We'll get it clamped back together. So Necromantic, yeah, I first read about it in early 1992. My friend Tim McLean let me and my then best friend borrow a Mondo Video catalog, not the same Mondo Video people that put out Possession, but an earlier kind of bootleg outfit. And, you know, what to say? Well, essentially, we were incredibly curious. So late that year, a cat that I later was roommates with named Jeremy, uh, rented a Necromantic and Necromantic 2 from this mom and pop video store in Kannapolis, North Carolina, of all places, because we couldn't find it at any video stores around anywhere in town, even the ones that like carried a lot of really sleazy things. So we watched them one after the other. We had a few guests who watched varying parts of the first and varying parts of the second, and were in and out. And those people were very intrigued, but none of them really had the fortitude or interest, to be fair, to you know digest 3 hours of this kind of indigestible material. I had a nightmare that night about the ending of Necromantic 2. The ending of that movie always disturbs me. The reason I'm watching the first one today is because, well, it's short and um, it is what it is. It's unique. It's a strange film, shot very cheaply, and the effects were done very much on the fly, but they're very convincing and very disgusting. And basically, it's a couple who are kind of, I guess, losing the zest in their relationship, and the husband is like, works for the coroners, and so he's bringing home pieces of dead bodies. His wife is like a, death rock goth, death obsessed collector. And so he finds a corpse that seems to meet her qualifications. And, they equip the corpse with, shall we say, a little more anatomical correctness. And she makes love with the corpse, and he's kind of makes love with her. And then the two of them are it's just one big fun coupling. They're not a couple, though. They're a menage a trois. Um, so, wow, menage a trois du mort, I guess. Um, there's some incredible images in this movie. Some of the most memorable ones are flashing before me right now. So, I don't know if you can hear the music or not. It has very pretty music. Bo Gray composed the music, played most of it on the piano, and of course, it runs contrary to the visuals, just like we were talking about with Cannibal Holocaust last time. So I think is always a very, very effective uh, thing to do. Do I recommend this movie? Yeah. I mean, if you really want to test your endurance and haven't seen it before, I would. It's at the time I saw it, it was the most morbid film I had ever seen in my life. It out morbided Beyond the Darkness, which I covered last time too. It has a very underground, very grimy, grim vibe to it. It's every inch a German horror film, and that usually means a lot of splatter, dread, heavy scenes, intensity, Sturm und Drang, and all that kind of stuff. So, before I butcher another German word, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. But uh, if you do see Necromantic, then you really have to see Necromantic 2, and vice versa. But Necromantic 2 is another level of cinematic extremity, which I think has rarely been, its final scene has rarely been topped among things I've seen for shock and intensity and graphic. Uh, um, yeah, I don't want to give too much of it away, but it's indescribable. Um, Okay, so that's like today's movie. So what about tomorrow, you ask, or you might not care. Tomorrow there's going to be a parallel thing. That one I'm calling traumas. I mean, they're still in intensity, but they're like, you know, next level traumas because all four of these films kind of deal with personal apocalypses and of various kinds, and people kind of slowly slipping mad into madness, whether on an individual level or in the final film, we'll get to a mass social level. So the first one I'm going to check out tomorrow, I may start it tonight, who knows, is a film that I almost feel like is the millennial answer. I don't mean for millennials age group wise, but for the millennium, it's the equivalent of Possession, and that is Lars von Trier's Antichrist. Probably a lot of you, I would think, have seen or at least heard of this film. It has Willem Dafoe and Charlotte Gainsbourg, and it's kind of an art house film. It's very much a horror film, though. It's extremely graphic. This is the Criterion Collection edition with a nice little booklet, a nice pretty disc, and it's got a whole ton of extras. And you get to learn a lot about Lars von Trier and his philosophy and his thoughts about this movie. He's always been a kind of a gadfly, a controversial provocateur and filmmaker, and he seems to encourage and court that kind of attention. Um, I have to say that this is one of those works I feel like it can back up that reputation with how extreme it is, but also with how well made it is. It's a very oblique film. It's mostly allegorical, but you know, it can be taken various different ways. Some of the ways which upon several viewings and reading about it, I realized that, excuse me, I'm falling, woozy. Um, there was a strong, like, feminist message in it about women and witches and madness, and I think that is kind of at the heart of it. Um, but I think a lot of it's concentrated really on exterior shock and the emotional devastation of the main couple, played by Defoe and Gainsbourg. They're an unnamed couple, he and she, and while they were making love, which is a graphic, hardcore scene, by the way, with stunt genitalia, with the two of them, their son steps out on a snow covered roof and falls to his death. So that happens pretty fast, pretty early in the film, and then that's the catalyst for the mother descending into depression and madness and not knowing what to do, and the husband, who happens to be a therapist, trying to put enough of his personal feelings aside in order to help her as her doctor, which is a massive conflict of interest. Now, I don't think he comes across as tyrannically misogynistic or awful as some viewers think so. But yes, he definitely did the wrong thing. He took the wrong turn taking on this case. And he really should have been there for her from a compassionate level, uh, uh, sympathetic, level rather than an analytical level or judging level. They go away together to a cabin. It's called Eden. And in time, things spiral out of control. She becomes extremely violent with him uh, and with herself, extraordinarily graphic, up close scenes. And they encounter three creatures, three kinds of animals that are all pregnant and giving birth, and there's like a crow, and there's like a deer, and there's a fox, and the fox speaks, and of course it's a CGI fox, but he looks cool, but you can tell he's CGI, so that adds kind of to the absurdity of it. But he declares that chaos reigns, and that's kind of the signature shot and line of the whole film. I mean, you see it all over the internet and memes and gifs, and with good reason. I love it every time I see it. Um, so this movie goes into some bad places, and in the end, it's just, I don't know. I mean, who survives and what will be left of them. Well, watch the movie and find out. I recommend it. It's not as good as Possession, but damn it, for nowadays, it's what we've got. So, last movie I'm gonna watch tomorrow is another traumatic film, and this is like the apocalypse of apocalypses, not just on a personal level. It's mass insanity as humanity finally launches nukes at each other in the mid 1980s. It takes place when it was shot during the Reagan Thatcher era, the birth of neoliberalism. And here we go. It's called Threads. This came on BBC in the mid 1980s. I did not see it then. I did read about it because I saw The Day After and part of Testament, two similarly themed films. In the mid 80s, it was really, there was a really good chance we were all going to just die in a massive, heat flash, death of the universe kind of fashion. It was not far fetched because when you get two maniacs like Reagan and Thatcher running the Western world, and then the massive, ridiculous Cold War scare against the Russians that went on for decades, and nuclear weaponry, these two superpowers trying to outdo one another. It's a bad scene, and it was a bad scene. I think it was even worse when maybe when my mom was a child than when I was, but I was still very cognizant of this whole thing, and I was very much against it, of course, even at that age. Uh, Threads. This has a pretty lenticular cover because you kind of see. I don't know if you can tell, but essentially it's like Britain with Big Ben, and then you swing it a little. You can already see it from in the mirror here into the nuked Britain. It's got some extras. This is by Severin. Severin always, here's Big Ben being nuked. Severin always has great extras. They always have fantastic transfers. I've reviewed a bunch of their stuff on this channel. Proud owner of their items and collector. Severin Works. Threads is to me maybe the ultimate horror film among the ones that I enjoy because I don't know if enjoy is even the right word. Experience, endure, um, because it could have happened, and with the second World War, the second Cold War that's been going on for the last few years, um, it still could happen. And not very long ago, it kind of sort of nearly did happen, but it was averted, and people went back to their status quo, whatever. Oh well, today we're not going to be nuked, whatever. It's cool. Let's keep having wars and killing people. So this one concentrates in a microcosm of Great Britain, and you get the idea that this stuff has happened around the world, but within Great Britain, several nukes of medium megaton weight have been launched and hit their targets. One in Sheffield, and that's not far from where these main characters live. We basically follow one family over a period of years from the mid 1980s when this happens all the way, I'd say about, I don't know, 20 years maybe. I'm not. It could be a little less. It could be a little more than that. But what has happened is society breaks down, and eventually humanity runs out of power. Farming is no longer possible on a mass scale, and so you have these nomadic tribes who are trying to survive the best they can, and some of them have radiation burns, some of them are infected or probably cancerous, and you know, um, well, essentially you've got three generations going, and or is it four? Well, the final generation that's born at the end of the movie is a bit different because the effects of this have mutated, began to mutate humanity. So that's like the ultimate horror reveal as to what becomes of this main character's for the daughter of main character's baby. And but along the way, it's just like blow by blow. There's news, faux news broadcasts and all kinds of things that bring it home that this could be happening, this is happening. It's kind of like a found footage movie. It really is. I mean, they pretty much present it as things that could be filmed for the most part and may exist as documents. That's not true of all of it. Some of the family stuff and toward the end with the nomadic kids, that's stuff that I don't think is supposed to be filmed within the context of the film, but it's like a breakaway to the real action that's going on, if you want to call it action, because humanity becomes very sluggish and violent and begins to kind of devolve in a sense within 2 generations. It begins to the language begins to break down. There's less teachers, there's no schools, and people are still trying to do it. Eventually, some electricity is rediscovered and put back into action, but it's just a slow, gradual process. And basically, it never gets back to where it was. I mean, and people have gotten to the point where the young generation are just talking in this bizarre jargon or argot, which is just this kind of pidgin English, kind of weird patois they've picked up, because their education and environment and peers and everything is so fragmented. It's not clear whether they're less intelligent than previous generations, but they're massively less educated and they're concentrating on survival. So there's really no way to go beyond survival into, beyond their creature needs, their animal needs, into a higher level. And the Abraham Maslow guy, the hierarchy of needs, they're not going to get up to the, self-actualization. I mean, they're not even going to get past the, we need some groceries level. And so it's pretty rough. It's devastating. It's bleak, but it's realistic. It's powerful. It's fascinating. It's interesting. Please watch it, especially if you are a fan of war or nuclear war. It might change your mind. It might not. But in any case, I'm going to wrap up for now. In a couple of days, I'm going to talk about some more films. Since I'm ahead of schedule a little bit, I might throw in an extra day of films. I've been eyeballing a few, and if I get a chance to squeeze them in, I'll talk about them too, but I'll announce that next time. All right. Take care. Have a great evening.